Well, welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. Today I'm going to show you a tip to make your gardening easier. Because you know, gardening shouldn't really be a chore. It should be a fun. And Fred and I are retired, but we still have places to go and things to do and naps to take. So let me show you one trick for making your gardening easier. Well, we're in the garden today and I want to show you my favorite gardening tool. This is a hula hoe. I showed a little bit about the hula hoe in another video, but I thought I'd talk about it a little bit more and show you a couple of different beds that I weed with the hula hoe. And this is great for beds that are heavily mulched, raised beds. I really don't know how it would work in your regular tilled garden, but in a no-till garden setting, the hula hoe is the very thing. So I'll show you what we got. Well, this is a nifty little tool. It's 10 inches long. You can also get it in a regular length so that you can use it while you stand. It has a sort of a beveled edge. It's not really sharp and it's at an angle. And it'll oscillate just a little bit. And this makes it possible for you to use the hoe with a different action than you would a regular hoe. You're using a pulling action instead of a chopping action. So it's easier on your hands, it's easier on your back. I'm actually sitting on a stool, which is how I garden. And there's a real benefit to this in your garden. I'll just show you how I use it as I talk to you about it. See, I just pulled that up with very minimal effort and got the roots as I went. When you're using a hoe, a regular hoe, you chop and you dig down and you don't get most of the roots, and you disturb the soil. If you see here, the roots come out with this hoe as I work, and I'm putting them over here in a pile and I'll get rid of them. Your goal in our type of gardening, organic gardening, is not to disturb the soil too much, and with a hula hoe you don't go below the 2-inch mark. The 2-inch mark is important because that's where seeds germinate. So when you use a regular hoe, you're digging down and pulling up new weed seeds to give them a chance to grow. You bring them up into that 2-inch mark. Now, not all weeds grow the same. And in my garden, it's mostly grass because this used to actually be a regular backyard. But for most, the hula hoe does a good job for you. Now I've got shallots and carrots in here, and I've got a pretty tight spot. So I put the hoe right up against the shallot and then just pull back. And it pulls the weeds with it as it goes, pulls out. Usually it pulls out the whole root. Sometimes you might not get them all, but it's easier than just straight pulling. And because it has that sort of beveled edge, that the shape that it has, you can get in between tightly planted things just by sort of going in at an angle, and you pull them right away without disturbing. And I've got carrots in here, and they're pretty delicate. But you see, we're getting the roots, we're getting the weeds. See that long root? And making a clean spot. And some of them I may have to get my hand right in between the shallots, but mostly I can get, working from both sides, can get this bed clean with the hula hoe. So if you look, you can see what a nice job it's done back in there with very little effort on my part. This bed was not heavily mulched. Most of my beds are. This one was not. So I have quite a bit of grass that wants to take up residence here. But this does a good job on getting that out. When I'm done with this, I'll show you the difference in a heavily mulched bed, how much easier it is to maintain. But I wanted to show you how the hoe works, and this is a good bed for that. I promise it'll be mulched before anything else is planted in it. So I'm going to work up close a little bit, and you can see how I turned that at an angle and just pull the grassy weeds right out from the middle of that tightly planted shallot bed. Works great. And this bed doesn't have a lot of mulch on top, but it has a lot of organic material, and that makes weeding a whole lot easier. So I'm almost done with this bed, but I'll show you a couple of fairly large clumps of grass and how easy they are to get out, roots and all. Then we'll move to a different kind of bed, one heavily mulched. So this tomato bed got pretty heavily mulched, and this was aged wood chips. We usually get them and let them age 6 months to a year. And the only place there are any weeds in this bed is in the gaps in the mulch, because weeds need some light to germinate, and it's within that top 2 inches. And if you'll see just how easy it is to weed this grass out, and see those long roots that come out when you use the Hula Hoe. And that's partly because the bed is mulched. I mean, it just keeps your soil in better shape. But we'll just pull these out. Pretty easy peasy here. You can see I'm not at the best angle, and they still come out really easily, roots and all. And then we're going to pull that mulch back because we want to keep it there. It retains the water, keeps the soil friable, cuts off the light to the weeds. It's just a win-win. That mulch is wonderful stuff. And I'll show you one more in this bed. This is a great big one. You know, that would be pretty daunting. If you went at this with a hoe, no way you would get all of the roots out. It would just come right back. You know, and it found a gap in the mulch, and then it just went crazy. So these are going to be surprisingly easy to get out. Have to give it a little pressure. You see, I'm sitting down. Just pull it up so that you can get to the center part of it. Put your hoe in, and I'm pulling pretty carefully because I don't want to break the roots off. I want to get the roots out on this baby, and shake it off a little bit. And holy moly, look at those roots. And you see that they came out intact. I'm going to save a little of the soil here. Put this weed in the pile and rake my mulch back to cover the hole. Look at that. Pretty awesome, right? So let's cover this back up. I have some more mulch coming. I may just come and make this deeper. But let's cut off the sunlight so that doesn't come back. So I'm going to show you one more before we go. You might have actually seen me plant this bed of beans. This has really deep mulch, and this is going to be my model from now on, this deep mulch. See those beans? You have very few weeds in here, and really, as in the other beds, just where there was a gap in the mulch. And mostly grasses, and mostly right at the edge. Where the mulch got pulled back. So we're just going to pull these out just like you saw me doing the tomato bed, and pull our mulch back, and just see how easy that is. We get the roots, we get it all. And I think I'm going to finish this up and then go take a nap. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. See no weeds. See you again tomorrow in the garden.